Name the remake of the groundbreaking horror movie in which the villain...
Halloween, Texas Chainsaw, Dawn of the Dead, The Hills Have Eyes, Amityville Horror, Last House on the Left, Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, My Bloody Valentine, When a Stranger Calls, Prom Night, Black Christmas, House of Wax, The Fog, Piranha. It's one of those, right? Right?
There was doo-doo feces thrown all over the walls, the floor, the ceiling, and it stunk so bad.
Welcome back to Don't Press Play, a podcast where I press play so that you don't have to. I'm your host, Alex, and today we are covering one of the most horrific films I have ever seen in my life. So, we're going to be talking about The Human Centipede 2, and this is, like I said, without a doubt, the most horrific, stomach-churning, mean-spirited movie I've ever sat through. And honestly, if I didn't need therapy beforehand, I definitely need it now because Jesus H. Christ. So, I don't actually remember this film being that bad, which sounds crazy because it's literally The Human Centipede 2. But I think I watched the first two when I was about 14, which I was like way too young to watching it. But I remember watching the first two and being like, okay, shock value, cool. But like, it was like the time of the internet where everything was like shock and horror and like beheadings in other countries where it were like on Facebook for you to watch. So I think I didn't really think it was that bad, which looking back is absolutely crazy how desensitized we all must have been because I rewatched it yesterday and honestly I felt sick for the rest of the night. So I don't know what that says about 14-year-old me, but 23-year-old me, I still feel sick thinking about it now. So before I watched the second one, I rewatched The Human Centipede, the original, the first one, beforehand. And honestly, it wasn't bad at all. It wasn't like a gross, horrible film that you'd expect it to be. Like I thought coming into it, it was going to be like blood and poo all over the walls from the off, but it wasn't. It was more like a mad scientist Frankenstein flick and just like a very European film. And it wasn't dirty, it wasn't gross, it was all just very clinical, very sterile. And it wasn't an awful movie. It was actually quite interesting, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed the first Human Centipede film. I don't know if that makes me a freak, I don't know, but I just genuinely enjoyed it. I think the angle they go from is it's not an overly sexualized film, and it so easily could have been with like two female leads. It just could have been that like tit fest that like a lot of cheap horror is, but it wasn't at all. Like I said, it was all very clinical, very sterile, and it just reminded me of like the story of Frankenstein. We have this like mad scientist who basically wants a pet, and he essentially builds his own pet with these three people that he kidnaps, and he sews them ass to mouth and creates a human centipede. And yeah, it's like I said, it's not from that like sexualized element of anything. It's very much a crazy guy and his crazy experiment. And that is kind of the tone for that film. And I think I was researching the first film because I don't know anything about them. And there's a scene in it, probably the only sexualized bit we get from this film is the crazy scientist guy strips down naked and goes swimming in front of the centipede. And the guy that plays the crazy scientist was like, well, you feel like you can be naked in front of your pet. So like, that's what he would do. And like that's like the only, but even then it's not sexual, it's him like treating the centipede as a pet. So like I said, it's a very clean, sterile, and it's not a weird, horrible sex movie at all. And that made me be like, oh, okay. But I remember the second one being a little bit dicey. I just do. But I didn't realize like how fucking horrific it was. And yeah, let's just get straight into that because Jesus Christ. So I rewatched part two and like, oh my God, like it wasn't sterile at all. It was duct tape and scissors, and it was just downright like sadistic. Like it feels like Tom Six, the director, just looked through at the first film and thought like, what if we stripped away every ounce of restraint and just like wallowed in filth? And that's exactly what we got. Now, I actually like the idea of the commentary. It's that whole idea of like fandom gone too far, because the story of this film is we have Martin, who is a security guard, and he is like obsessed with the first film. And he's like a super fan. He's like me and Blair Witch. Like, that's a joke. He's just like very much obsessed with this first film. And he sees something that's so horrific. And he's like, I'm going to recreate that in real life. I want my own pet centipede. And it's just the execution that goes so far away. Like, I feel like if they'd have, I mean, it's hard to say because you can't say like rein it in because it's a film about sewing someone ass to mouth. But I think the first one did it with kind of like class. I don't know. Whereas this one, it just loses everything as soon as the film starts. Like, my main problem with it is the dialogue in this film, because the way some of the characters talk to each other is just like, it's very Rob Zombie in the sense that Rob Zombie, it creates like a visually stunning film, but a lot of the writing in his films just like makes my teeth itch because it's just like so bad. And it's the same in this film. Like, you can't see people actually talking to each other like this. Like, for instance, one of Martin's old mother bangs on the top of the roof with her broom to shut the neighbor up, and the neighbor just comes straight downstairs and is like, "Shut the fuck up, you old cunt." And it's like, that's not how conversations go. Or in the very first scene when Martin is looking at the car with two people in, the guy just off the bat's like, "You're trying to fuck my girlfriend. I'm the person that fucks my girlfriend." And it's just like, whoa. Like, can we just like maybe like go back to film school and learn how to write a screenplay? Because Jesus fucking Christ. Like, I just feel like if the dialogue worked a little bit better, this film would like at least be like well done. But it's just so horrific that like I can't give this film any grace because it's genuinely the most horrific thing I've ever seen. So, like I said, the execution is way too far, and like never has a film made me feel so sick. And it's not suspense, it's not horror, it's just like relentless abuse thrown at our eyeballs for 90 minutes. And it's like the film dares you to stop watching, and every scene it's like, you think that was bad, wait until the next one, wait until the next one. And somehow the next one always manages to be like 20 times worse than what you've just seen. And the movie takes exploitation horror to a new and honestly unforgivable level. Whatever you think is going to happen, like I said, it's just doubled it and cranks it from 5 to 10 and 10 to 15. And then it goes on to this strange like sexual abuse element, and I'm not easily shocked, but this is where I think the movie like completely lost me, because you've already got like a man like jerking off with sandpaper, which is a visual that no one on earth needs. And then you don't need to then drag the connotations of like sexual abuse in with it. It's just when a film is already so down in the dark and down there, to kind of add this other theme in, it's just kind of, I don't want to speak for other people, but it's just kind of like, it's a little bit insulting to kind of dabble with like a theme so heavy as like sexual abuse as a child, and then mix that in with like someone like mutilating their own genitals and then like doing such a horrific thing like a human centipede with a pregnant lady. It's so like next level, and I think that's where I completely was just like out of it. There's like a really horrific scene of Martin having a bad dream, and we can hear what his dad was saying whilst he was like sexually abusing him, and it's just like so horrific, and like the poor writing in it as well like makes it even worse. And it's just like, when you're dealing with a film and a theme like that, you have to do it properly, and you have to do it like sensibly, or like you are just like exploiting that theme for shock value, and that's exactly what this film does. And like it's just so horrific, and like, I don't know, it to me is like, I think films like this is what gives exploitation horror like a bad name, because there's some films out there that deal with certain themes like that, and it's done in a way it's not exploiting that theme, it's using kind of just to demonstrate that, whereas this film is absolutely just exploiting that theme for shock value. And yeah, it's an absolute no from me. It's an absolute fucking no. And I think where it leaves me after that whole thing is just ew, really. It was a really hard watch. Honestly, like I said, the first Human Centipede is still gross, but it has a weird kind of clinical charm to it, and the second just feels like a punishment. It's one of the only movies I've watched where I thought, like, I don't think I should be seeing this, and I think it's actively damaging to my brain right now. And the idea behind it, with its like fandom obsession, reality and fiction, could have been interesting. It does go very postmodern. It does go very like Wes Craven's New Nightmare. The actress is involved in it. And yeah, but instead we kind of get sandpaper, duct tape, barbed wire, and a dialogue that sounds like rejected pages from a Rob Zombie script. And yeah, we essentially. I've completely skipped over the plot because I just don't think I wanted to talk about it, to be honest. So we have Martin, and he is a fan of the first one. We come to learn that he's been sexually abused as a child, and as a result, he is really, really messed up. And he's living in a flat with his mother. His mother is a fucking horrendous character as well. She's like trying to kill Martin all the time. She just says that she wants to die. Martin has a pet centipede, and he has a doctor that wants to have sex with him as well, and refers to him as like a boy, even though he's like a fully grown man. It's just horrific. And anyway, Martin is using his job as a security office to kidnap people, and he wants to make his own human centipede. Instead of with 3 people, he does it with 12 people. And as you can imagine, with Martin not being a skilled surgeon, because this is another thing. They said that this film was like 100% medically accurate. It's not. I'm not a doctor. I didn't do my boards, but I can tell you now, this is not medically accurate because you're telling me that someone at an end of a human centipede can survive off double downed human shit. No, absolutely not. Anyway, mine decides to make this human centipede with 12 people, and the results are literally horrendous. The graphics in this of him like removing the tendons in someone's knee literally made me nearly gip. Like I was, "Ugh." And he basically makes his human centipede. He does it, but instead of like clean surgically skilled, it's with duct tape and scissors and blades, and it's just horrific. And he like staple guns the cheeks to the ass, and it's horrific. And he tries to the front of the centipede as well is the lady from the first film, so that is the connection there. And then he realizes that the centipede isn't pooing the way it should. I can't even talk about this on the internet for free. Jesus Christ. So they realize that the centipede isn't pooing the way it should, so he then gives the centipede a injection of lactatives. And then the fun begins. This centipede is shitting its guts up, and it's so horrific. The visuals is so horrific, and there is just doo-doo and feces all over the walls. All over the walls. And Martin is like physically repulsed by the smell because, yeah. And then it finally makes its way to the end, and the poor end of the centipede obviously poos her guts up, and then Martin takes it on himself to rape his centipede. It's like, this is the type of like horrific shit that like this film deals with, and it's just like there is no reasoning behind it. It's purely just like, how can we make this more horrific within each scene? And I think by this point of the film, we were like, it must have been like an hour in, and I was ready to throw in the towel, honestly. I was so ready to be done with it. And yeah, and then there's a whole other thing about a pregnant lady, and the pregnant lady escapes in a car, gives birth in the car, and like puts her foot on a pedal and squishes the baby's head. And I just don't understand why it's in there. I don't understand. Did they just be like, well, we've got some spare footage, let's use this pregnant lady? I mean, it doesn't help that I watched the uncut version, but I was like, if I'm gonna watch it, I'm gonna have to just watch the film. But I just regret that I ever did, because I feel like I'm a changed person, and like not for the best. Not for the best. So, my final verdict, do not press play. Seriously, don't even touch the remote, because I pressed play so that you didn't have to, and now I need to go and have a lie down. This has been Don't Press Play. Thanks for listening. I'm Alex. I'm begging you, please learn from my mistakes. Until next time, stay safe, and for the love of God, don't press play on the Human Centipede 2.